Welcome to It's a Controls Problem, where we do precision guesswork based upon unreliable data given to us by those of questionable knowledge. I'm your host, Charles Johnson. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Matthew and I are back from a trip. As you know, AHR was last week, and so I flew in Saturday. I believe, Matthew, you flew in on Sunday. Is that right?
I was there on Saturday. Went to Disney World with the family on Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was fun and exhausting.
Yeah. For me, I had to. I went with Mark Peacock to go and we went over to the convention center on Saturday just to kind of get a lay of the land and see who else was there. We actually ran into MegaCon, which was a big comic convention, anime convention, just nerd convention as a whole.
Were there any furries?
That I don't know. Mark and I did not stay that long. I did see a lot of Star Wars cosplay. Kind of had to explain to Mark what that was. He, I guess, is not a fan of neither Star Trek nor Star Wars. But it was but realistically, we just took a lay of the land, said hi to a few people. And then, went back to the hotel. Then Sunday, went back and set up the booth. And that actually didn't take that long. Only took about an hour or so. The longest part of the wait there was, I believe, just the event staff getting our TVs up and running and such. Other than that, it was quite fun. Took a little stroll around, just seeing everyone set up the booths and whatnot. So that was quite fun. And then Monday, we got into business. I know that did you take any of the sessions on Monday?
I did take some sessions on Monday. Went to an AI session Monday morning, and it was terrible. Got a couple other sessions that were really focusing on incentives, and then also how to go to market in specific areas of North America. Those were very insightful. Obviously, one of the things right now is there's a little bit of uncertainty around project incentives and stuff, and what's going to stay and what's going to go, and if response times to filing for incentives and stuff is going to be a longer scope. So there's some things up in the air with the current state we are in politically, and of course there's seems to be a couple different areas of one side, there's some positivity around getting rid of some restrictions put in place by lawmakers that don't really understand what our industry does, and they're just their hearts are in the right place, but their laws in the wrong place. And then on the other side of it, there's people pretty worried that their projects aren't going to go through, and they're skeptical of how the year is going to turn out. But some people are going full bore, and they're going to get as much done and on the books as they can before we find out, and just see what happens. And other people are kind of holding back and waiting to see what happens. So some uncertainty.
Talking with some vendors, that was kind of concern for them. Even like even how to, how to handle the costs if things were to increase and whatnot. I didn't go to any sessions. I stayed at the booth. Well, I mean, I also walked around, but I pretty much was in the booth talking to people. I had a lot of traffic come through, especially Monday was really, really busy. And Tuesday we had some time, some cool down periods, but it was not bad. Wednesday was the slowest day that we had, but in some areas it was busy. I personally had a lot of traffic as well. Had quite a few people from my LinkedIn connections come in and take a look, like Thomas Trang. That was one. Francisco came in and we had a conversation. A few others came in, and then I walked around some of the booths. I stopped into Functional Devices to kind of say hi and thank you for the swag. They gave me some swag, and I created some videos. Functional Devices actually put them on LinkedIn already on how to work with backnet ribs, and I used our Edge 534 as the gateway to bring them in. Obviously we personally, or I mean, we from a company had a good we had a good showing too, showcasing some products there, but everyone brought out their toys. Some toys were the same as last year, with a few improvements. Some were brand new, that I saw. And others are just kind of getting into, just kind of getting in there. One thing that I was really, interested in was from NESM Alliance, and I think it's NESM Alliance. They were in the Ingenuity booth, who really kind of. I don't think it's NESM Alliance. I think it's just called NESM. But they actually had a chip that actually could actually go with lawn. No, it is NESM Alliance for sure. They actually have like this chip that actually does long range and can talk on a wider range of wires, and it kind of acts as a gateway, and so that could be a good thing, especially for like LAN. That's a big thing. A lot of edge controllers don't talk LAN specifically, but something that we could look in. I kind of thought that was really interesting that LawnWorks kind of was like, hey, we're still here, we're not dead. So that was quite fun. I mean, lawn could be a pain, and some people don't like lawn, but as far as communication, I always preferred lawn over a lot of the other manufacturers that we had, or a lot of other products that I've dealt with in the past. Reliable Controls was right next to us, which was kind of fun because obviously they are a solution that does not use Niagara. So being directly across from a booth that doesn't use it versus us that's what we showcase, right? Our controllers are Niagara. Distech had some good stuff there. Schneider had some good stuff. Delta had a good. They have a new product coming out. It's called Red or something like that. That was actually quite interesting to look at. I even visited Contemporary Controls. They showed they showed some of the new, I guess it's an Edge controller that they have that's like a 36 IO count that uses Sedona. And oddly enough, hilarious enough, their supervisor that they used was actually Genesis Pro Builder. So I had a little chuckle about that. I stopped at ISMA. Pavel showed me some stuff there that was really good. We had a good conversation. Really kind of liked what he was doing with that VAV. I stopped by Phoenix Contact to look at their new controller. I saw who was it? I saw Hector Hernandez with Cube, showcasing their product, which is actually quite interesting. I know that there's another one out there, Unity. They both kind of have similar products as far as like, trying to create productivity and data flow and whatnot. Also, what was that one that I helped out? Who was that called?
I know who you're talking about, but I talked to them earlier on Monday, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think
You came
Neve.
in.
That's who it was.
Neve. That's it.
Yeah, Neve was the one. Spoke with Charles Stuckey on there. They actually had an Edge 514, and I went over there and commissioned it for him. So that was quite nice. But I stopped in the Honeywell booth, saw Lou and Hutchie. Guy Zebrick is retiring, so that actually was kind of bittersweet. I really like Guy, and he's done a lot for the Honeywell community as a whole. He has an FAQ that he has worked on quite a bit, and it's going to live on. But kind of seeing some of those people, just kind of retiring, it is a little sentimental for me, especially because knowing them personally, and working with them over the years, just kind of seeing, that end of an era of things. But it's nice to see that there are people that there is a younger generation that's going to be ready to pick up the ball and take it. But it was a lot of fun. The food wasn't bad in some things. That Ocean's place that we went to was phenomenal.
Ocean's Prime was amazing.
Oh, yeah. If you were in Orlando, go to Ocean's Prime. That was great. I also went to the boathouse at Disney Springs. I had lunch with John Jarvis with Think Tech. We were discussing some things there too. That was also really good food there. So if you got a chance to go to Disney Springs and go to the boathouse, that was amazing seafood as well. But Ocean's Prime was definitely better for sure. I couldn't shovel that in fast enough. But I tell you, as far as obviously there were pictures of my weight loss and people, seeing me from a year before to now, and people ask me if there was a difference. Well, there is. Like, let me tell you, my knees were not screaming. I was a little sore, but nowhere near the amount. Like, I was still up and walking and, out and about, which was great. Milesight IoT came in. They came in from China, and they went around the booth as well. Saw Edison Smart. So we had Matt, Josh, and Beth was the new one there. She's a real go-getter. Beth Herbert. I've spoken to her. She's very hungry, and very sharp, and has a keen eye for this. So it's good to see, more people coming in and taking over really all aspects. And so, it's not just about building automation. They went over mechanical equipment, even residential equipment as well. Were there any booths that stuck out for you?
Oh, I thought Water Furnace had a pretty good setup. That one of our partners, they're working with the E2E platform, and they had a good presentation of it. They had one of those mezzanines that you could go up on top of. That was pretty fun. I thought Delta had a pretty good setup, and I talked to them a little bit about a new thing that's coming over from Europe, where they're taking the water mixture that they use to cool servers in a data center, and repurposing that to then transfer that as hot water and then repurpose that back into the building. So use that as heat. So that's kind of a cool idea. I think that's pretty awesome. You know what? A lot of the a lot of the booths that were there this year really didn't look too much different to me than last year. So it's just kind of like, oh, that's just the same setup, most of the same stuff. Really, it was talking to people and getting into those sessions for me that really connected me with some great content and ideas to support the salespeople. One of the trends that I also noticed being talked a lot about at sessions and at booths and stuff was refrigerant transitions was a big deal. I heard about that a lot, and I don't know too much about refrigerants. Or one of the things that I did notice was a difference in how people were talking about AI. AI is not gone, but one thing was evident that people are skeptical of what businesses call AI and say is an AI tool, because I think people have discovered that a lot of it's just kind of BS. And what I heard more about AI at this show was more from a practical use as a business case for, helping you get more stuff done. So a salesperson or a marketing person or someone who writes a lot of content is really using AI as a tool to just be more productive, as a lot more practical this year. Did you hear much about AI this year?
Not much. Not much at all. I think, there are a lot of people that want to limit what AI is capable of, and I don't think we should. I think we do need to test the boundaries more. People are still really just wanting it to do like predictive maintenance, but I think there are some other cases for large language models, in the automation industry. I think over the next several years, and probably as Facile.ai gets off, and that's Danielle who is spearheading that. I think you're going to see more of that in the future. But you are right; there weren't as many new toys as there were before. And while some people, while some manufacturers do like the same song and dance, the point of it is they may not have new things, but they just want to get their name out. And that's really kind of the big goal there is to expose people, because there are people that came in the booth that have been in the industry for quite some time. They're like, we've never heard of you. And I heard that quite a few. I heard that quite a few times over. Not really to me. In my head, part of me is like, well, how could you not hear about us? Because
right.
Because I know at least I heard about LinkSpring in 2007. But some of those booths are just there to get the name out. And obviously you can, spend a wide array of money on how much or how little you want to do that. All companies start with small, with small tables and whatnot, and then they eventually can get into larger boosts. But like, I think some companies plan it out based upon how much traffic I think they're going to get based upon the area that they're in. Cause like Atlanta, for example, like Reliable Controls had a fairly large booth. Distex is usually large as well. I think ours kind of stays the same size. I don't think we've increased in size over the last 3 years since I've been. The layout was really nice. The flow of being able to kind of go in and out, and it felt more open rather than having having like a drape on one side as a wall. So being able just to go in and out from any direction, I thought was quite nice. I think if people were talking about if they were talking about, I wonder if the refrigeration you're talking about is more of recovery standards. I don't know if things changed. I didn't think there was any change since like 2017, but that could be it. So I'll have to do a little research, and then you and I can have an offline conversation about that. But I'm wondering if it was more for recovery and recycling of that stuff.
What did you think of the general mood or outlook of the industry compared to the previous year?
I think as far as the mood, I think there's some, I think depends upon where you're going to work. If you catch my drift on that, there are some people that are looking for other opportunities that aren't of like the government sector. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
That came up a lot. And obviously the thing about tariffs. But you have some people are still trying to use digital twinning or digital twins to showcase their product. But realistically, that's not really that's not making any headway. I think that was a big takeaway. People realize that that's not that's something right now currently that's not that while it seems nice in principle, in action it's still not really being practiced a whole lot. I did see the AI stuff not really being as receptive as I thought they would be. I thought I would be having a lot more conversations about that too. But I think that people are just kind of, from the controls industry, they're just kind of in a holding pattern here. I think there's a lot of stuff that over the last like 2 or 3 years that's been released, and so I think it's going to take some time to process all that stuff. And like when you see an influx of product, I think that customers get overloaded by that because now they have all these options and now they don't know what to do specifically. So you will see some things that are like mix and match kind of thing, but I think next year. I think next year will be a big push. I think you're going to see a lot more talk about AI, especially after the next few sessions. I think that's going to be something there. I think also more of a push for UX and UI stuff is really going to be a big thing too. And data flow. And what I mean by data flow, like as far as like pushing it to the cloud. So, you have things like E2E, you've got Forge, you've got Atrius. Atrius didn't seem to have a lot of traction this year as it did last year, even though they had some they had some significant improvements on that. I didn't really see anything on Forge, but H2E really got a lot of attention. And rightfully so, because like being able to do things with your data and having that pumped into interfaces that can create those dashboards for you without you putting a lot of effort towards it is super nice. I think what you're also going to find is that BACnet is still there, Modbus is still there. I think there might be a push for LAN. I think. I don't know why, but for some reason my gut tells me that there are going to be some LAN manufacturers that come up with a thing or two to kind of make its way back in. Not that it'll ever take over BACnet, obviously, but I think that could be something. Another thing is how quickly can a lot of people are using HVAC controls and they're trying to push the industrial industry. or the industrial boundaries on that stuff too. So it'd be interesting to see how controls responds to that. Some people different products, and they may not necessarily want to use something that's as rugged as like a PLC controller. So they'll kind of take something like what we have and try to apply it. And I think that there are some minor limitations to that. But I think you're going to see people push that. Most vendors will probably go to duo or quad core for their processors, and some may go even higher as we get more of that technology. I think you're going to find a lot more partnerships with like Microsoft out there as well, because they're also trying to get in. They're trying to get their foot in the door, but much like other companies, you might as well just buy ones that you have and then harness that. But we'll see how it goes. I think Vegas is going to showcase a lot more, because people will be really excited to go to Vegas, because that's just one of those real international hubs.
It's true. One of the things that I noted last year versus this year, there was I saw some stuff at some booths and in some sessions and chat about LoRaWAN, speaking around protocols. But this year I didn't really see anything.
No. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you if you had noticed or saw anybody talking about that, or if that doesn't seem like it picked up speed or anything.
LoRaWAN is not... the U.S. market is kind of strange. Wireless for the U.S. has a very negative connotation. It really does. Which is why I don't like to say wireless. I like to say remote sensors that don't use wires. Because I do, because they think that wireless technology is inherently bad, or there is there's a way to or there's a way to exploit it in a nefarious way, or more nefarious than what they think. There are some people out there that want to compete against LoRaWAN, especially since LoRaWAN has such a long range for their products. I haven't used any yet, so I can't really say that. But like the UK market is booming with it, and anywhere, and any in the European. So like, the US adaptation for like smart buildings is there, but I don't know how it all gets in there. I would like to see some real solid use cases where people are like using LoRaWAN in their building and thriving. And I think that kind of thing will really go a long way. There were a few other wireless products that were there. Monet had a booth. There was one across from us that also had a booth. I can't remember their name right away, but they had a nice little dashboard that they were showing too. Contemporary Controls is trying to get in there on the wireless, not necessarily for sensors, but more for gateways specifically, and trying to kind of work with some other things, like maybe like Ubiquity and stuff like that, to get a wireless solution for their product line as well. I do. Oh, go ahead.
Was Dent one of the wireless sensor companies?
No, I don't think that was it. Let me. I'd have to check an email somewhere, but I had quite a few. I have quite a few emails to follow up on. I've been taking a pilot class this week, so I've not had a lot of time to respond to people. But yeah, I can't remember the name of it. But they were. I can't remember their name, but they had a nice booth. They were actually right behind us, but I can't put my finger on it. where they were or what their name was again. But there was a nice conversation there. There was a nice conversation there, but I think you're going to see some more wireless things and wanting to get their stuff in versus Modent or LoRaWAN. You're going to find those kinds of products out there. So like they're going to try to push more of the American market, but America's pushing back currently. I don't know what that's going to take to solidify that as a real solid option. But as long as people are continuing to develop those gateways, there are going to be some people that buy them, and eventually they'll pick up.
In one of the sessions I attended, they did mention that from end users that wireless is being asked for more in the U.S. market, and I kind of wonder, because I'm assuming that it comes from IT, that they're the ones that are afraid of using it, not as much as someone actually that's making the decision to put it in, but they're getting a pushback from their IT that there could be some problems involved with that, and whether or not that's imagined or not, I don't really know. So
yeah, SensoCon was the name of that company, by the way. I found them. They were the ones right behind. They were the ones right behind our booth. Another big thing I think that's going to be talked about here soon is BACnet SC. I think there's going to be a push for people as to where or who is responsible for handling those certificates. One side of the fence is talking about that the manufacturers are going to be the ones to maintain the certificates, and on the other side, it's going to be the IT department to actually handle those certificates from device to device to handle those hubs. So I think that's kind of interesting, and I think that you're going to see a push for that as more people want their data more secure. So.
Yeah, so that's another topic that was very heavily discussed as opposed to the previous year, was security, and the people who are actually integrating the systems are starting to get the message, because I think if you talked about it last year, people, they got it, but they didn't really want to care about it because it just adds another layer of things they need to be concerned about. But I mean, just things as simple as digital hygiene for security that is starting to be put into practice by these guys. I think there's people in our industry that have been doing a lot better job of communicating that, so there's better thought leadership around it over the last year, because there was that impression that these are the guys that go and put this in and set up the passwords and stuff. I mean, that's the first layer of people that need to be communicating the hygiene around that system. So I think there is a lot more importance put on focusing on getting that message out and making sure people understood that that people are currently, right now as we're talking, trying to gain access to a building via an IoT system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're seeing more people wanting to handle their own certificates as well. Like obviously Tritium has the default certificate, but with the cert signing service in 414, it makes things a little easier there to create all that and handle it. So yeah, you're right. Like that's going to be big pushes in the next few years, and eventually there's going to be a good solid system in place that I think that there will be a standard that most people will implement. So
yeah. So what was your favorite conversation that you had while you were at AHR this year?
Let's see. There were some good conversations. I think the one that I think the one conversation I had that really sticks out to me is the need for anyone that has anyone that's using any Niagara controller outside of the Jace. So whether it's the Edge product line, whether it's ISMA, whether it's Phoenix Contact or whatever, there seems to be a need for being able to connect to those on a segmented network. So for example, what a lot of people do with Jaces, and especially like backing over IP devices, where the building network will handle like port one. The primary port will be like the building network, so that's the customer's connection, and then the secondary connection is for like those IP devices, and so we're seeing that a lot of people want to put Niagara controllers, or I'll just say edge devices. That doesn't necessarily mean our edge product line, but edge devices in general, underneath like a secondary port of Niagara. So it kind of is out of the purview of the customer. They are wanting to create a need to connect to that from a Jace. And the problem with that currently is that tunneling no longer exists. So there are ways that other controls gets their connection. So, for example, Distech uses a wizard, with GFX, and a copy of the project gets stored in the file space of the Jace. And so when they launch the wizard on a controller in Workbench, it will go and grab that project and sync it. Same thing with Honeywell, where, especially with the spiders, you had like this virtual XL10 folder that would show up in the config space or in the file space, and you would see like a config.bog there as well. So you have controllers that you can connect and program from a tool, whether it is directly in Workbench or just adjacent to Workbench. And so a lot of people want a way to connect to Niagara devices. Inside a Jace. And so since tunneling isn't there, can there be a viable option to be made in order to do that? And what does that look like? Whether or not we learn how to, whether or not Niagara vendors adapt like some kind of ability to hot swap a bog file or whatnot to load, which could lead to some issues there. But I think some people will try to create a way of tunneling without actually tunneling. So that I think in the next year or two that could be something where people are going to try to be a little more innovative about as well.
Nice. And what's something that a big takeaway for you that you would like to carry over into what you do or what we do at LinkSpring from this year's show?
I think being aware of what is out there. Product awareness, I think, is really important from a manufacturer standpoint. Some vendors just get focused on their own product. And when you get focused on your own product and you're not understanding the current market, things get lost in translation. I'm not saying that's what's happening with LinkSpring. I mean, in general, there are vendors that don't pay attention to what's going on. Some don't necessarily care, but sometimes it's important. It's vital to be aware and to be cognizant of what's going on. So that way you can either you find a hole in the current market to propel yourself, or you're just trying to stay current. So I think that's the big takeaway there. People really do want to do something with their data. So E2E is there's definitely a need for that. Obviously, our 634, which is our dual core controller that we have that's going to be coming out soon too. So obviously, we've learned to beef up our product line as well. But I think for other vendors, it means that either some may actually have to go to a Jace. They may not want to do it, but especially if they're working with like ESA and such, which requires a Jace as the front end, they may actually have to get in bed with Niagara, that they didn't want to do in the first place. So having that as an option, I think that you're going to see a push for that as well. I think you're going to see a lot of vendors who didn't have a Niagara solution now have a Niagara solution as a way to stay current.
Nice. Any other relative or specific thoughts that you have from the show that you enjoyed?
I enjoyed talking to people, and I do, about anything, not just our product line, but controls in general. Seeing some of the people that come in and hearing their insights on how they view the controls industry is always insightful, especially talking to the older crowd to see how they react to the younger crowd. Some of them, they kind of dismiss them right away, but some realize that they have skills that we don't, and we need to educate them on our side to give them the whole package. Like you have a lot of the younger crowd that knows the how, but not the why. And I think the why is also I think the why at times is more important than the how.
That brings up a point that you were talking about earlier about seeing some people that are on their way out the door, and we've got a aging workforce in the industry. Mm-hmm. And that's one notable that I took away from the show, and that was talked about a lot at the show, is how are we going to fill all these seats? Because it's I think one of the things that's pushing the acceleration of people leaving is there's people that are deciding, because of the chaos that's happening currently, they're like, well, maybe I was going to do 2 or 3 years from now, but I might as well just get out while the getting's good.
Yeah, I mean, some people think, some people think AI is going to replace replace a lot of jobs. I don't think that's going to be the case yet. I think that you're going to have people that need to maintain that as well. So I think that positions can change, but are not necessarily replaced. So, it'll be interesting to see what the next 5 years comes in. But I'm really excited to see what happens in Vegas. I think there will be some big things I don't know yet, but
I hope so. Vegas is an exciting place. It's a good place to release new things, I think, for some of these companies. So if they've got something brewing up, next year's going to be a good opportunity.
I didn't go to any of the after parties at all. Sunday went to Dave and Buster's because we had a thing we wanted to watch the Super Bowl and they watched the Chiefs get massacred on like a 40-foot TV screen.
Thank you for reminding me.
Well, to be fair, I actually chuckled the whole time. People were giving me looks like, "Why are you chuckling?" I'm like, I think this is kind of hilarious. I'm from Baltimore originally, so I'm a Ravens fan, so I'm used to disappointment. But the Ravens are a bird, the Eagles are a bird. It was close enough. I mean, personally, I really didn't care about the Super Bowl. It's been a long time since I've actually cared about professional sports for multitude of reasons, neither here nor there. But I'm excited for next year. It's Vegas, so I'm putting together a poker fund because I'll probably not be sleeping as much while I'm out there, so I can play a few hours of poker.
You gonna be up late at the tables, huh?
Yeah, or as long as I don't get stranded in like wake up in like the middle of a desert like The Hangover, that also might happen. So it'll be my first one there. Then after that, I don't know where it's going to shift. I know there's going to be another city, but I don't know if they're thinking of like whether going back to Dallas or New York. Um, like Chicago is great. It's just cold. And, same thing. Like I'd rather like, especially if they're doing AHRs like that. Obviously I understand why, they would go in those, in those bigger areas, but like, yeah, I would like to see that more like in the springtime if you're going to like, go a little more north and whatnot. But, obviously they got to keep it roughly around the same time every year. So I'm super excited for that. It was exhausting as well, just to
It is
excuse me.
exhausting.
Yep, just to talk to
Even when
everyone.
it's great. Yeah. It's physically and mentally tiring.
Yeah. I mean, I did go by the Tritium booth to look at the Wi-Fi on the Jace 9000. I told them I wanted one. They said we have one. And so I need to find out how to acquire said Jace 9000 with the Wi-Fi. If we have it, then I need to steal that when I'm out there in March doing the in-person certification. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really really enjoyed it. And even though I don't go to a lot of the parties afterwards or I just decompress for the evenings for the most part. But I may spend the next time I'm around those areas. I may take some time off and really kind of go exploring in some of those areas. Sometimes it's just nice to smell the roses, but I don't really get to do that a whole lot when I travel. So a lot of people think traveling is really glamorous and like, oh man, you're traveling here and there, you're staying in these hotels, but like most of the time people aren't staying in like 5-star hotels. Like the DoubleTree Hotel was really nice. But we go to just regular, most of the time we go to like regular hotels and eat regular food. So it's not like we're eating filet mignon and lobster every night. Those meals are very few and far between. So, but
Right.
it would be nice to plan out a little more and take a little time for myself. So I may do that in the future.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Obviously, me and the family did that. They were out with me. I didn't get to spend too much time with them during the show days, but after that, on Friday was a fun one. We went to Gatorland.
Oh,
which is an interesting place. It's just in the swamp. There's a lot of gators there. It's pretty cool.
At the end, since I drove down Friday, I drove back up. It's only about 6 hours from Charleston or so, a little less than that. But when you stop at all the Buc-ee's, that's the big one. So I'm excited for. I was excited to get all of the orange mints. I tell you, just their mints are amazing. I got like 5 bags of jerky as well. So those are that's always fun there.
I love Buc-ee's.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this episode. Remember, stay curious and prepare your bankroll. Until next time, I'm Charles.
And I'm Matthew.
And this has been It's a Controls Problem. The ravens are a bird. The eagles are a bird.